want that to go wrong. I wonder if I need to turn off my music. I was saying, I was giving
Jennifer coming?
What?
Jennifer is coming?
Well, Jennifer was here in person.
Oh, well,
She visited, yeah. Deb, do you see the smoke above my shoulder?
I do.
Okay, that's the diffuser, the one I'm suggesting that you get before your surgery.
Okay.
Hi, John.
Yeah, he's actually back there.
I saw him. Okay, I'm going to turn the music off so I'm not distracted. So yes, this is my new energy medicine space, and tomorrow they're coming and taking all the big tools, and so I will clear up a little bit more space. It's wonderful because I can donate to them and they'll use them, and they're very serious. They bring in big artists to teach metal smithing, and so they can always use more tools, and I don't have to worry about them being trashed in some program that doesn't really, because they know what they're getting and they really appreciate it.
Cool.
So, and whatever they don't use, they will auction off for their fundraiser. So this is a win-win, and it's happening a little faster than I expected just because their auction is coming up, and she sent me that. So I am going to share my screen and start the slideshow. I'm so excited to share this with you. I've been a crazy woman. I'm just warning you. I've just been a crazy woman. Life is very interesting and good. So I think it's sometimes good to know the backstory. And for Debbie just joining us, we've been studying a body of work called the Seth material, which is channeled information. And I've been studying this content since 1971, and it's kind of my primary understanding of how I see the world. And anybody who gets my gratitude list knows I talk about the trail of breadcrumbs. Is that, you know, the way that prayer is answered in my life, or visioning or affirmative, you know, doing affirmations, often shows up in very subtle impulses. So, and I thought I'd bring up this quote because it's one of the quotes that was meaningful for me when I first copied it down maybe 20 years ago. Oh, by the way, Deb, Andrea and Mary Ellen were in the leadership program that I was in.
Okay, cool.
That's how I know them, yeah.
Cool.
Okay. They're CTI coaches. Deb is coach trained too. So we're all coaches here. And so our impulses come from the deepest sources of our beings and are meant to promote our own fulfillment and to also to ensure the most beneficial developments possible for mankind and other species as well. So it's not just selfish, it's for the greater good of all. According to Seth, our impulses are the most natural aids to help us find our way in physical reality. So if we follow them, with an interesting background sound. In Mass Events, he describes our impulses as, Mass Events is one of the Seth books. He describes our impulses as emerging from an innate, profound knowledge of the probable shape of events for the entire planet. Though we aren't consciously aware of these implications, Seth states we're impulsively aware of the best possible future events, and our impulses are meant to lead us toward the areas of development best suited to our individual and collective good. So when I start talking about this stuff tonight, I really think it's, I had a call with Mike this afternoon and we were talking about this. Right now, the world is so toxic. I really need to feel that I'm doing something to help reduce the toxicity. So while this is personally meaningful to me, I think it's also pretty meaningful in terms of the work. So, so one of the key things is, despite their beliefs and teachings of religion and psychology, by that Seth means two destructive forces he would talk about a lot is destructive in terms of reducing our hope and reducing our positive view of the world. And I just listened to a book by Lynn McTaggart today. She's talking about the same thing, is Freud and Darwin. So Darwin said it was the survival of the fittest. Dog eats dog, it's a cruel world, only the strongest survive. So that was a belief system about competition and you can't trust anyone. And then the other one is Freud. And Freud basically said, don't trust your unconscious. Your unconscious is full of evil, nasty impulses. So we at core are evil, nasty creatures. So both of those have kind of robbed us of that sense of well-being. And therefore we don't listen to our impulses because we've been taught that they're bad and they're wrong. And, but in fact, they're meant to nudge us toward our greatest opportunities for expression and development privately, and also to ensure the person's contribution to mass social reality. I will get to the relevance of this in a minute. So on a biological basis, impulses are like emotional instincts, individually tuned so ideally that they are stimuli toward action that results as a consequence of complicated inner computations. The computations are made by drawing upon the psyche's innate knowledge of probabilities on a private and mass basis. So most of us don't trust our impulses because the authority of the self has been so eroded by religion, science, and psychology that our impulses are equated with antisocial behavior or selfish behavior. I know I've had a conversation with everybody on this call about that exact topic. Is it, selfish for me to want to do this? Particularly when you have partners and family. This, really. And it's considered synonymous with or individual expression at the expense of social order. So how dare I, and I wrestled this to the ground in my 30s, how dare I choose a life for myself? Hi, John. And so without saying, impulse is the base on which life rides. They represent the overall motivating force. Remind yourself that the best possible events are brought about from framework 2. Your impulses will automatically provide you with a proper balance of solitude and company, private and public activity, exercise, and rest for you. So framework 2 is where we do our visioning. And if we, put it in our visioning, then it becomes part of what is manifest reality. So now about me. This summer, and a number of you have gotten the narration of this bit by bit, I have spent 15 years trying to get a new purpose. Everything kind of ended in 2003, so it's nearly 15 years. And unexpectedly ended. My husband got really sick. My publisher told me to go away. I was longer. Hi, John.
Sorry. He's really, really nice.
He is. Yes, he is. And you've been together how long?
48 years.
Okay, so.
Wow.
All right, so we'll just go.
Congratulations.
Uh-huh. We worked at it. Go ahead, Pam. Bella.
Okay, so this summer I was, one of those books, when Amazon tells you that there's a book that you can pre-order and when it's released, they'll send it to you. Well, one of those arrived and it was from Ken Wilber. And it was, this thick. So I got the Audible version so I could listen to it while I was gardening and cleaning house. And then it was so dense that I would have to read the same passage I'd listen to and underline it and get everything out of it. So when I got to, I have no idea what that happened. When I got to page 595, I discovered a quote. Now this was in a section where he's talking about how important it is if you're doing intense meditation to make sure that you have someone who knows about energy. You could awaken some of your energy systems and cause yourself problems if you didn't have the right structure or the right training. So this is something I've known about for probably 30 years in the environments I've been in. Some people experience what's called Kundalini awakening, and it can literally just blow out the chakras and leave people pretty unstable. It can also cause physical problems. So I took heed, when he said that. And then I came across a quote that he said about subtle energies. that Donna Eden suggests that there are 9 different subtle energy systems in the human body mind. And he went on to say, this is one of the most inclusive systems I've seen, even although how they're integrated and fit with each other could be better detailed. So for Ken Wilber to say something positive about somebody's work is a high kudo for me. So I immediately, I never heard of Donna Eden, ordered her book, the book arrived, I started reading the book. Donna Eden does not write in a way that I can comprehend. It's a lovely book, but she's wildly intuitive. So it's kind of all over the place, you know, it's, I like mine a little more structured. So, and I went to her website because she said something about videos. And I said, well, maybe if I get the videos, I'll be able to figure out what she's talking about. So I went to her website, and then I found out she was teaching a class at Omega in 2 weeks from then. So that's one of those impulses or coincidences. I happen to have the week off. It happens to be a place I absolutely love to go that I hadn't gotten to yet this year. So this is my mindfulness alert. A new technique I'm trying. And lo and behold, so I went to the class. Now I have to tell you, if Ken Wilber hadn't recommended her, and if I hadn't made the choice based on that, had I known what the class was about, I would not have gone. Because when I got to the class and I found out what it was something I had a lot of judgments about, and a lot of, well, judgment's probably the best thing. Contempt is another thing. So closed-mindedness. So this is how I understand my impulses have to work. I always say God has to trick me into doing the thing that's for my highest good, because my own stubbornness and my own willfulness will say no to what actually is answered prayer. I mean, I have a lifetime of doing that. So I signed up for the course, and she was just teaching on the weekend, and I didn't want to go all the way up there and bring all my stuff and do all that just for 2 days. So I looked for a class that was on either side of her class. And there was one on energy psychology being taught by David Feinstein, who just happens to be her husband. So he's my age, and they've been together 40 years, which is pretty impressive. And he's a clinical psychologist with his doctorate is from Johns Hopkins, which in my book makes him pretty solid. It makes him pretty legitimate. So I figured I'd find out about this Donna Eden and what energy medicine was. So off I went. Oh, I'm not ready to show you that. And I had the best week probably I ever remember having at Omega. I have never met so many nice people or been in a workshop that was so harmonious. David Feinstein was 5 days with 22 people. We had medical doctors, we had clinical psychologists, we had licensed social workers, we had pretty much everybody was a professional in some category or another. We took a deep dive into the body of work and energy psychology. But to my great shock, energy psychology is tapping. So who here knows about tapping? Okay, or emotional freedom technique? So that's what I had contempt about. Okay, I see. Steph, you're on the call. How lovely. I'm going to make your picture show up. So there you are. Okay, nice to see you. Our new author, our new out there in the public with a book and talking everywhere. Wonderful success.
I can relate to whatever you were saying about the willpower and the universe and everything, because I got fired.
Trick you. Tricking you. All right, so I went to David's class, then I went to Donna's class. By noon the first day, I decided I wanted to sign up for the certification program. But the problem was it starts in April, and this was July, so I was going to have to wait until 2018. And when you're about to turn 70, waiting to 2018 really seems like a long time away. So I grabbed one of the teaching assistants who lived near me, and I knew who it was, and I told her, you know, what I was thinking. And she said, well, okay, let me work on that a bit. So she came back about 15 minutes later and she said, yeah, we're going to make it possible for you to join us on module 2. All you have to do is catch up everything for module 1. So you have to study all the material, you have to take a written test, and you have to do a demonstration of the techniques. Okay, little did I know that that was going to be a pretty monumental task. So I had 3 weeks to do that before we went into module 2. I'm still feeling like I'm a preemie, so I'm developmentally delayed because I'm 3 months behind the people who started in April, so they've got more practice time under their belt, but it's really good. So that's how I got into this. But as I keep going forward with this, trying to understand more about the concept, here's just a little book I bought today called the Encyclopedia of Energy Medicine. What's so exciting is mainstream science is now bringing forth all the evidence that validates what have been ancient practices. So let's just look at what some of these practices are that fall under the umbrella of energy medicine. Acupressure, anybody heard of that? Acupuncture. I haven't heard of biogeometry. Qi Ni Zhang, I haven't, but maybe somebody else here has. Emotional freedom technique. Jin Shin Do. Mary Ellen, have you run across that? Might cross your path.
Actually, not yet.
Okay.
But now I'm intrigued.
Yeah. And then we have Oha Shiatsu. I mean, I've heard about shiatsu, so maybe this is the larger thing that it is. Pranic healing, I know about pranic healing. Qigong, everybody here probably knows about that. Reflexology. Reiki, everybody have a local Reiki healer. Reiki for animals. Then we have tapas acupressure for animals, or tapas acupressure. Thought field therapy is like tapping. Touch for Health, that's actually where Donna Eden started. Touch for Health was in the 1970s. It still is very active, but that's when it started. It was one of the first programs to come out with applied kinesiology, and it was mostly chiropractors and doctors. As I've gotten into this, I've realized that some of my colleagues have been doing work with applied kinesiology since the mid-70s. Many of them were involved in something called brain gym. That you may have come across brain gym. It became very popular in the school programs, particularly as a treatment for dyslexia. So then we go into traditional Western medicine, advanced integrative therapy. A lot of medicine is integrative. Anatomy for Healers, the Barbara Brennan School for Healing. Anybody heard of that? I studied with somebody who was the chief healer in her school. Be Set Free Fast, Bi-Aura, Body Talk, Core Energetics. That's a body of work I know about. Craniosacral. Great work. If you can get somebody to work on you, it's wonderful. EMF, energy medicine specialists, esoteric color puncture, healing touch for animals, inner source. So inner source is Donna Eden. And then we have Kairos therapy. I have heard of that. I couldn't tell you what it is. Polarity therapy, heard of that. Quantum touch, rapid eye technology, resonance repatterning, therapeutic touch, that's been around for quite a while. And then spiritual, many of these I know. And it's interesting, they have breath work down here, holotropic breath work, which I'm certified in, is considered shamanic healing. So just energy medicine, this is the scope of what energy medicine is. It's a very broad body of work with applied practice. So that book will be coming soon. And this is a book that you will be getting a lot of material from me in this. I just signed up for online course, and this man did 4 of the modules, and it's just what I've been looking for, because it's the physics, the biophysics, the chemistry, and everything that substantiates all these practices. So there's wonderful, I know, Mary Ellen, you've been studying some of the neuroscience stuff. Andrea, have you been studying any of the neuroscience stuff? Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you have. A lot of this is about the biofield, which is the same thing as Peter Senge is talking about the presencing in the field, and Otto Scharmer talking about presencing in the field. This is where they're actually able to measure the biofield, and they're developing electronic instruments to visualize it, to be able to capture the radiation. So it's pretty powerful stuff. And I just wanted you to know there is a whole back story to this. And while I don't need it at this point, I would have loved to have had it 40 years ago. I would have loved to have had it 30 years ago. I don't personally need it to be a practitioner or to receive treatment and validate it, but I will be working with people and am working with people that need to know the science is there. They need to know that it's validated. So that's where I think about it. So here's just a couple of things from that book, and just some simple things that I heard that kind of got me rethinking about how we're shifting from, you know, in this picture we see the model of the atom the way that this was my high school physics textbook. It's the Linus Pauling, it's the, you know, we could make it out of wire and foam balls, and now we have the, you know, atomic structure. Well, it actually turns out that it's these fields. It is not these particles or these singular elements. There are fields of energy that, this is actually a field of probability. So it might be somewhere in this field. So, and this comes from Niels Bohr in 1913. So this was the beginning of quantum physics and the beginning of us looking at the world differently. And of course, anybody who works with psychic energy is sensing the field. And one of the other things is, you know, in part of the training that I think is really great about Eden Energy is they're very clear that you as a healer have your own field, and that you better be doing your work to, you know, keep your systems clear and clean. And, you know, there's things that you do before a client session, there's things that you do after a client session. I'm discovering that I need to do more after client session because I've been getting pretty wiped out the next day. So that tells me I've got leaks in my energy system. So just things to know. Steph, you, as a spiritualist, I'm sure there's lots of training in your training. Yeah, you know, otherwise we can't. You and I have talked about it, about the need to ground and what starts happening with some things without that. And not only is it in physics, but it's also in rethinking the cellular structure. That, you know, we have, most of our models are mechanistic models, and they don't really contain fluid or energetic states. So I'm just showing you these to give you a sense of. And then, Foundations of Chinese Medicine. The first things that we're studying in year 1 of the Eden Energy program. Oh, see this book? This is a very big, heavy book. It is a fabulous book. It has everything I ever wanted to know about Chinese medicine in it. And I also got the electronic version, so I can clip out all the pictures and graphs and diagrams, and you'll be seeing them over the next few months as I roll out things about qi and yin and yang and the meridians and all of that. So this is the complete comprehensive text, as it says, that's being used in Chinese medicine training programs. The clinic that I go to, and I'll be going to next week, is the doctor I go to is a naturopath, but she's also trained in Chinese medicine, and she's also an acupuncturist. And at the University of Bridgeport in Bridgeport, Connecticut, that is a school of Chinese medicine. So I don't think that's I don't think that's what they call it, but that's what it is. So a lot of body of work. I love the language. The functions of the 6 extraordinary yang organs. I really want to know what the extraordinary yang organs are, because I'm sure they're pretty important. And I want to have some. I want to make sure I really do have some extraordinary yang. Think about it. This time of life, I think they're important. But, you know, they have all these wonderful names about the vessels and the precious this, and it's so much nicer than our Western medical language. And one of the things that's interesting about Chinese medicine is they don't really work with organs or systems of the nervous system. They work with patterns. energy patterns. And so I've been receiving treatment from people who are Chinese medicine practitioners for quite a few years, and I didn't always understand what they were talking about, but I'm beginning to get it now, and at least I'm building a context. So Chinese medicine, but what are we dealing with? We're still dealing with this basic conversation we've been having from the beginning, is we have a lower vessel, which is our physical, mental, and emotional vessel that we're trying to build strong enough to hold the spiritual energy that it is meant to be filled with. So we're trying to build that personality as a container so that the soul can descend. So, and what led me on this path was the warning that if you don't have a methodology for this, that descending energy could blow out your vessel. Now, I know a lot of stories about that. You know, I'm a product of the 60s. We had a lot of people using a lot of drugs to achieve enlightenment and trying to get to those higher states, and they blew out their vessels, you know, and some of them did not come back. You know, they were permanently shattered. And this is a Kabbalistic teaching, which is, you know, some of my training as well, is the vessels, you know, in one of the creation stories, the vessels shattered when the divine sent down the light, the vessels shattered. They could not hold the light. It was too much for them, and they shattered. And that's why all the pieces of those broken vessels are in the world now, and we're trying to find them and release the light. That's kind of the Kabbalistic metaphor for the work. So it's really important to make sure that in doing this energy work, we have a solid lower vessel, and that we actually have a process or practice for bringing in the light in a way that the vessel can gradually contain more and more light. So this is kind of what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. Is I've spent the first part of my life really working on that lower vessel. It's taken almost all of my time and energy building, and you know, the work hasn't stopped. So dealing with my emotional balance, dealing with my thinking, you know, toxic thought patterns, and then physically, you know, good food, exercise, getting the right sleep, drinking enough water, all those things to maintain the vessel. But to remember that it's really for the purpose of more light. So that's the work that Ken Wilber calls growing up. You know, I love the way he talks about it. He says there's 4 things we need to do. We need to wake up, we need to grow up, we need to clean up, and then we need to show up. So most of my life has been spent growing up. And now that I'm going to be 70, I really would like to wake up. So that's the next part, which is waking up. Waking up is really those higher levels of consciousness and being able to dwell in those states more and more. And so he has a book on integral life practice. We talked about it back on May 22nd in 2016. That's what Allison wanted to know. She posted what everything was in Slack, all the classes. This is the one she didn't have. So grow up, wake up, clean up, and show up. Right now, I'm just pretty focused on more consciousness at the level of waking up. And and it, you know, it's really appropriate age-wise for me and for some of you who are joining me in that age, because we're in our 3rd Saturn cycle. We finished the 2nd Saturn cycle, and you're supposed to really have all your growing up done by 58 or 59 when you finish that cycle. And then to make that transition into the 3rd cycle, which is now about the waking up. So these are some of the things we've looked at a couple of times. Ken Wilber is in The Religion of Tomorrow. This is part of what he's doing, is mapping what many different religious systems have said about these states of waking up. So contemplative experience. Peak experiences are when we get a glimpse of the state, but we're not able to stay in it and continue to dwell in it. So meditative contemplative practices give continuous access to each state. I just signed up for a boot camp for Bright Line Eating, primarily because it's got a new meditation every day by somebody who has been commissioned by this very prestigious university in London. Steph, you probably know who they are. And one of the top 10 neuroscience programs, and she did the mindfulness program. She was commissioned to do that. She's from New Zealand. She is a singer, and her name is Monique Rhodes. Not heard of her. Okay. So everybody experiences these in all religious states. But how we interpret it is based on wherever we are in our developmental stage. So people can get pretty skewed interpretations of what happens to them, depending where they are developmentally. And that's something we talked about in our last class before the break. So here's just some of the systems and how they talk about these waking up stages. So in Hinduism, Buddhism, Christian, and Islam, we have different levels of this, but they exist in all of them with different names. So this is kind of what I want to do with my next 30 years, is I want to keep moving into more and more of these states, all the while knowing that I have to maintain my lower vessel or else I'll leave the body. And, you know, when you leave the body, you're dead. Thank you. All right, so welcome. So the focus today is to really talk about Donna Eden's work. Over the past month, I know I've sent you video clips. She has online her daily energy routine. I'm recommending it to everyone. It's 5 minutes worth of exercises. And I sent out also a wonderful version of it by Prune Harris, who lives in the UK. And she shoots all of hers on beaches, in meadows, with bounding dogs, and surf in the background. It's just lovely. So these are the 9 basic systems. The meridians are what acupuncture works with. So everybody's heard of meridians? Chakras, pretty much everybody's heard about chakras. That is the Vedic system. 7 chakras. Aura. We've been talking about aura for a long time. Some people can see auras. Some people are aware of auras. This next one I'd never heard of. Has anybody heard of radiant circuits? I tried to research it and I couldn't find much, but radiant circuits, all Donna says is they're the source of joy. They actually, in terms of our genetic development, pre-exist meridians. So salamanders, for example, have radiant circuits. It's like the energy system before the meridians develop, before the nervous system develops. But when she said that's where the joy is, what I realized was I probably don't have radiant circuits flowing as well as they need to. So I'm not able to access as much joy as I need to, or maybe want to, or maybe both. So that's part of this work in this first year, learning about the radiant circuits. Triple warmer is something I'm talking a lot about with my regular clients. I'm going out to dealerships with this. Triple warmer is, when we talk about amygdala hijack, that's triple warmer. Triple warmer is our fight or flight system. It is one of the 14 meridians, and I'll give you a little more detail in a bit. Celtic weave. Celtic weave is an energy structure that weaves everything together, and it's based on figure eights. Now, if we look at esoteric symbolism, this infinity symbol, the figure eight, shows up in several tarot cards. I was taught by my teacher that it is called the lemniscate. It's a doorway that takes us between worlds. And the god that does that is Mercury or Hermes. So Hermes could dance between both worlds. So that's the Celtic weave. The 5 rhythms are Chinese medicine. So that's water, help me out here because I might not remember. Well, water, wood, fire, metal, earth. So those are the 5 rhythms. The electrics and the basic grid. Donna Eden can see energy systems. I have envy for that. I have serious envy for that. Since she was a child, she could see energy systems. She needed to get trained to be able to know how to work with them skillfully, but she could always see them. And 2 of the systems she saw were the electrics and the basic grid. I don't get to learn about that until year 3 and 4. So that's all I got, but that they're very fundamental. And one of the things I'm thinking, and this is for Deb, is I'm thinking that when I had a hip replacement, some things got disconnected from my basic grid, because it was a pretty dark time afterwards, and I had real difficulty for a couple of years restarting my life. And so I'm thinking, I knew I should get energy work done. I just didn't know where to go and what kind. But I'm thinking that that was part of what went on. And you know, it just makes sense from a shamanic background. You don't cut bones and not have consequences. Just saying. All right, so this is kind of the fundamentals of energy, and that Donna Eden teaches, and it's kind of the grounding of a practice. So the first thing about energy is it wants to move. Now, what I think is really interesting about this is I had a colleague who in the 70s came up with an approach we used to training that was all based on energy. And it was about conflict uses energy non-productively. But he would always start, he was a physicist, and he'd always start about, you know, the laws of energy. And that he'd ask people, you know, how many of you would like more energy? Everybody raises their hands. I said, well, guess what? You cannot create or destroy energy. It's one of the laws of thermophysics, thermodynamics. So if I want more energy, I'm screwed because I can't create it. But then again, I can't destroy it. So the only thing, and we would lead people down this process, the only thing I can do is transform how I'm using it. So that morphed over the years to my work with people saying, you know, we have three things to spend. We have time, money, and energy. And a lot of people are really aware of their money and how they spend their money, and maybe even frugal and conservative about their money, but they waste a ton of energy and a ton of time. As you get older, the resource you have less of is energy and time. And when I am not well, when I, you know, have some breakdown in my system, then I really recognize that the energy cost of some things. I remember pre-hip surgery, if I wanted to get eggs and I wanted to get fruit, they were at opposite ends of the grocery store. And it was simply too far to walk. So that becomes a really thing. So energy, there's basic principles of energy. It wants to move, first and foremost. So when we do Eden energy work, what we're doing is creating space. You know, there's a lot of stretching exercises. A lot of what you see people doing with Qigong is creating space for energy, because energy wants to move. It wants to move in specific patterns. It wants to cross in small and large figure eights. Now, what is so amazing about this with me is I have been seeing these colored figure eights in meditation for at least 20 years. And I kept trying to draw them, and I kept trying to make them out of glass, because that's what they look like they should be made out of, because they're different colors and color in them. So it's actually a basic energy structure is figure eights. Energy needs space to move. So if I'm really constrained and constricted, my energy will not be able to move. But I don't know about most of you, but a day in the modern world, and I start getting pretty constrained and constricted, particularly if I'm driving. I have a history of having my shoulders up at my ears, my back really tight, my shoulders folded in rather than out, and so on. So creating that space. The health of the body reflects the health of the energies. So it's the energy that comes first, and then the body. All the body's energies are interconnected. That's kind of the, look at that kitty. That's kind of the Western medicine myth that we can treat only one part of it, and they're not all connected. Your energy is affected by other people and events in your environment. Anybody here surprised by that? No. Matter of fact, the more I start doing this kind of work, I'm discovering that when I'm out with my clients, I really have to do a better cleansing process afterwards. Tonight, I'm going to start the practice that it was suggested is sea salt, sea salt baths. Sea salt, not Epsom salt, but sea salt, because sea salt's psychic energy. I'm getting a nod here, I know. Some people know this. Energies adapt to circumstances using consistent priorities. So this is where the triple warmer comes in. I'll talk a little bit more about that. Energies form habits that may not readily change, even when these habits are harmful. So there's something that we talk about, cross-patterning or cross-wiring. I have a lot of it. where that's why I often don't know my right from my left, and things can get confused. Energies can be repatterned by tapping, pressing, pinching, twisting, or connecting specific energy balancing points on the skin. So that's acupressure, that's touch for health, that's kinesiology, that's acupuncture, that's all these things. Tracing or swirling the hand over the skin along specific pathways is another way to shift energy, particularly in figure eights. Exercise or postures designed for specific energetic effects. That's all of Qigong is, you know, these postures. Focused use of the mind to move specific energies. And sounding an area with healing energies with one's hands, one's intention, surrounding an area, or one's presence. So all part of it. So here's some notes. I'm not going to read all of it to you. I put it here so you'd have it. This is what I put together. As I said, I couldn't learn from Donna's books. So I had to put together my own study guide to organize the information in my mind. I just would like to come down here to, first of all, the aura. The aura surrounds and envelops the body. It's the body's outermost energy system. Several layers or nested auric fields. Some people say there's 7, some people say there's 9. Maybe different people have different numbers. Filters to protect the body from toxic or disruptive energy. An antenna bringing in beneficial energies. And you know, we used to joke about that, about balancing your aura, getting an aura cleansing and aura balancing, but it's actually very real. And one of the energy medicine tests we do is we test to see whether somebody's aura is kind of right-sized. So some people's aura is constricted too close to their body. It should be out to the end of your fingertips. Some people, their aura goes beyond that. And you really don't want that because it starts getting dissipated. So it really should be in, you know, if you extend your hand on either side of your body to the fingertips is where you would want your aura to be. So it is that filter. But it's a filter and it's an attractor at the same time. These radiant circuits are called, once again, Chinese language, strange flows or extraordinary vessels. Are subtle energy flows that support and assist all other energy systems, especially the meridians. They are highly responsive to thoughts and emotions. They fuel joy and other positive feelings. Stimulating the radiant circuits can activate inner joy as well as the inner physician, which then continues to do the work of inner healing and balancing. The radiant circuits are more ancient than the meridians, are not confined to fixed pathways like the meridians. Instead, they move instantly where needed with a radiant glow that attracts vital energies from the environment, activates healing from within. So there's an exercise, and I will send you these exercises that I do at night before I'm going to sleep. And I often have to wake up. I wake up at 1 or 2, and I have been very anxious ever since the elections. I just have had anxiety levels that I haven't had since I was much, much younger. And because I don't drink or drug, I have to find alternative techniques for dealing with this. And that's why this body of work showing up in my life at this time is a lifesaver, because there are a lot of these techniques that I can use to do healthy self-soothing, because healthy self-soothing wasn't something I knew. I had to learn it. So there's one that involves touching right over the heart chakra, and then the side of the face up by the temple. This is one of the radiant circuits. So it's connecting the triple warmer with the radiant circuit. And there are people who just fall asleep that way, you know, just to remain calm. Triple warmer, you know, this is the one I really want to talk about because it's both a meridian and a radiant circuit, but it plays so many other roles that it's often spoken of as a separate and independent energy system. It governs the immune system, the fight, flight, or freeze response. So this is the one that is getting thrown on alert all of the time in the current events that we're dealing with. Some of us grew up with a lot of childhood PTSD, and my triple warmer probably has been on hyper alert from birth. So that's pretty challenging because it has led to adrenal fatigue. So a number of times I've been in adrenal collapse. It is the root of immune system failure. And, you know, over the last 15 years, I've had a lot of immune system problems. I had to stop traveling because I just can't stay well on airplanes. And I have a number of viruses and things that flared that are like great indicators of how robust or weak my immune system is. So it's really important to me to find some techniques for calming this triple warmer all of the time, particularly as the world gets more and more triggering for me and for other people. So it follows its own pathway. So I don't know, let me see if you can see me. Let me get me on screen. I'm not looking at me. So its pathway comes from the back of this finger. So in between the fifth finger and the fourth finger in this groove, just everybody touch where yours is. It goes up the outside of the arm, up over the shoulder, up over the neck, behind the ear, and in toward the eye. So one of the ways that we strengthen things is we trace a meridian up and do that. And if we want to flush it, which is to, clears it out, we reverse it. So there's an exercise that we do that I've been taking to my dealerships and teaching them. Would you be willing to join me in this exercise? All right. So you might want to take your glasses off. I would like you to take both hands and put them on your temples. And take a deep breath in. And then bring your fingers down behind your ears and release that breath through your mouth. Down to the tops of your shoulders. Take another deep breath. Hold on to those shoulders. Anybody got tight shoulders? I always have tight shoulders. Okay, hold on, take a deep breath. Another deep breath. And release. All right, we're going to do it again all together. So there's some breathing goes with it. Up the side of the temples. Down behind the ears. This is an in-breath. Down behind the ears, out breath. To the top of the shoulders, in breath. Blow it off, out breath. One more time. Top of the ears, in breath. Down the back of the ears. Shoulders. This time, rest your hands on your heart chakra. So the third time we land on our heart chakra. So this is called the Triple Warmer Smoothie. I've been teaching it to service advisors in the service drive in dealerships because their amygdala is hijacked all the time. An angry customer comes in and it just sets them into fight or flight. The customer's in fight or flight and things escalate, particularly here in the Northeast. Things get ugly fast. So and what that's doing is taking that part of the system and flushing it. It's very soothing. Now, the other wonderful thing for soothing is this one. Rest your fingertips up on the front, just above your eyebrows, and make it the pads of your fingers. Everybody got that? And rest lightly, and you will feel a pulse. There's a pulse on the left, and there's a pulse on the right. Tell me when you feel the pulse, and keep your hands there until they synchronize. Any pulses yet? Probably all muted, so.
Yes.
Okay, which side first?
Actually, it was, I thought the right.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got them.
Okay, which one came online first? Which one came online first?
Left.
Left?
Right.
Right. Okay, if you're not feeling them, lighten up your fingers a little. Okay? Now, here is something really interesting. I don't know if this is correlated, but it's a factoid that I learned simultaneously, so I'm trusting my impulses. My right one always comes on first. In the research on the frontal, on the precortex, frontal precortex, the left side of the frontal precortex is wired for positivity and trust. It's joyous, and we need to go on mute again. We need to go joyous. On the right, it is wired for distrust, depression, and negativity. Now, I don't feel bad that that is what I learned. It's what I've known all my life, is that I have to actively work to be positive because my left prefrontal cortex does not come online first. So that's what I tell people. I just got to get up a little earlier and work a little harder to shift it on. So these are some of the techniques that are helpful. And those same points are what are called the oh my God points. So throughout the day, what you can do is when you need a break, just do this. Oh my God. And help yourself restore your balance by staying in this position until you can feel the pulses. Because what that's doing is telling your physiological self to move the energy from the back of the brain where it's being hijacked to the front where it knows how to make decisions and handle complex situations. So that's about the triple warmer. The thing that's unfortunate about it is when it goes on priority, it pulls from everyone. So everything else starts shutting down, all the blood to our peripheral flow. And in this new science that I'm studying, the science of energy medicine, I saw shocking pictures of capillaries under fight or flight. The capillaries very quickly narrow, which means we're not getting blood flow to key areas in our brain. Our visual cortex starts not functioning well. That's why after a very bad trauma or a near accident or something, people often have little or no memory of it. And they report that time slows down. So because it can pull in every system, it also can lead to collapse. It pulls particularly from the spleen and depletes the spleen, and it pulls from everything but the heart. So that's why it is what leads us to autoimmune disease, including in this body of work, it talks about including MS as an autoimmune disease. So I was diagnosed in the late 70s with MS, and so that's just one of the many ways that my body has manifested this triple warmer overload throughout a lifetime. So my commitment to this work is around healing PTSD in particular, and the PTSD that keeps getting triggered by current events. I don't know if you were on the line when, did I tell you all? I had a dream about neo-Nazis the other night that was incredibly vivid and incredibly scary. And it was in an area, it was down by you, Mary Ellen, and I have an African-American friend who's down there, and you know, big, powerful, like a bad movie, like a B-grade movie of skinheads, and but it was way too close to reality. And while I would have been able to dismiss a dream like that 10 years ago, I couldn't now. So that's why I'm working on triple warmer, and I'm taking it to everyone I know because we all could use the support. The Celtic weave, this is sweet. The Celtic weave is, hi, you're leaving? I've got a chat here going. Oh, bummer. Well, that's the trouble with working in New York. You get here late. Thank you for showing up for the time that you did, Steph.
It's me.
Oh, it's you,
I'm
Andrea.
leaving.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I still
Go
need
meet your
to
kids.
connect it. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for showing up, and I'll send you the recording.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Celtic weave. I'm sure you've all seen the Celtic weave, you know, what it looks like in fabric or in fiber. And it is actually a natural, and what it does is draws all of our energy systems together into a network of communication. So through the crisscrossing dance of large and small figures. So that's something you can just do over your body, particularly if you have an area of your body that's not feeling very good. We'll talk about this in the future, the 5 rhythms. That's a whole deep body of work that I'm just putting my toes into because I'm trained in the 4 elements, the Western mystery tradition. So for me to start learning this has been, but it's pretty central to the whole Chinese system is all an integrated system. So it's a key part. The electric is like the Celtic weave and 5 rhythm system that acts on all other systems. Donna says that it's the electrical dimension of all the other systems. So it's more fundamental and the most easiest. So in this new photography that they're doing, it's probably the one that they are seeing. And embedded throughout the body is a matrix or grid pattern, dense and slow moving. It is the foundation of other energy systems, given the innermost energy of them all. So this is when I think you know, just a hypothesis I have. Just as the skeletal system provides the body's basic structure, the grid provides the basic structure for the body's energy system. It also directly supports the bones. So Deb, that's why I was saying I think this system got disconnected when I had my hip replacement. And I don't think that I had the energy work done that I need to get done. I did have the woman who's teaching the certification program work on me. And what's really interesting is when I do energy work, I look like I'm having a seizure. I have a lot of convulsive activity. And I've known about it since breath work. It is Kundalini. It's blocked energy. And I always get a little embarrassed. So she was working on me. Unfortunately, she said, you know, let it go, release it, don't get upset. And then she just held my legs. And I was pretty much off the table with vibrations. And so afterwards, I asked her about it, and she said, well, you know, that's just blocked energy. And what I'm thinking is it's a leftover. And if you see, if there's a break in the grid, people cannot fully thrive and will have a difficult time mustering their energies or healing completely, physically and emotionally. I do not feel like I have completely healed since that time in 2012. If the grid is healthy and strong, all the body's energies are supported. So this is just kind of how it's resonating with me today. Come on, go ahead. So those are the systems. Body's energies run in patterns. Because of this, innumerable healing traditions across history have recognized and worked with the same systems. They call them different things. They have different names, but it's the same systems. Each person's energies are unique. So that's why we talk about an energy signature. I have kind of a felt sense of it. I don't see it like Donna does, but I certainly have a felt sense of it. And when somebody's off, you know, that's my only language for it. It's like, wow, this is not their energy signature. There's something wrong here. So everybody's unique within a consistent pattern. So that's the both and. The body energies are dynamic and they interact with the practitioner, unlike what you see in a static anatomy diagram where all the systems are present, intertwined. The perception of subtle energies is often interactive with the viewer perceiver. So what Donna says about that is sometimes she'll see some systems, but not all the systems. And then as she works with a person, she'll be able to see more of them. They seem to come into focus in a way. I just think that's really cool, and I wish I could do it. I think one of the reasons I signed up for the certification is during the exercise we did in Donna's workshop. I was working with a woman I'd just been in the 5-day workshop with, and I could see her chakras brilliantly. And so that was enough of a hook for me to say, okay, well, I can see at that level. And for some reason, chakras are easier for me to see than some of the other, maybe because I've been working with chakras longer. I don't know. But that's it. So they're all connected. The meridians feed the chakras feed the meridians. So there's nothing in God's world that isn't connected. That's kind of a mechanistic model that sees things as disconnected. Once again, the radiant circles and the triplet warmers gently marshal, coordinate, and harmonize all other energy systems. And radiant circuits can be involved with the energy of emotions, particularly positive feelings from awe to spiritual connection, can affect any of the energies in the body. And the same thing with the triple warmer. It's a primal force in the body that can directly affect the meridians and every other energy system. And it can pull from all the other energy systems. And its primary responsibility is to keep you alive. So it's doing what it believes it has the mandate to do, even if it causes you to collapse. At least it kept you alive. So because I put that demand, you know, when I think of not only did I have childhood trauma, but I went out into a world that was hostile to women, and I persisted in going out in it. And then I traveled for all those years, which meant I was always in that triple warmer alert because it was not safe and at some fundamental, and I was never home long enough for the system to calm down. You know, I toward the end of my heavy travel career, I learned to work a heavy 3 weeks so that I could have 10 days at home back to back. And my friends used to joke because I would get worse each day I was home longer. And what I would be doing is unnumbing. Is that triple warmer had everything locked in so that you know, we could survive. But as it started feeling safe being at home with friends and support and all that, it would start releasing, and then as it would release, everything that had been blocked behind it would start pouring out. So that's kind of my understanding of it now. So here's one of those things that I've been trying to memorize and learn, but I knew parts of it before, and I really like it now. There's some key concepts in this flow, and this is the 14 meridians. So everybody here has heard of yin and yang, right? They are designed to flow back and forth. So it's that same energy. And I love the explanation of the traditional yin-yang diagram with the black and the white, is that nothing is ever exclusively all one thing, because in the black image of the yin, there's a white dot of yang. And in the white kind of, whatever we call that, curvy body, there is a black dot of yin in the yang. So this is something my Chinese medicine practitioner, my spiritual advisor, was trying to teach me for the longest time, because I only wanted things to be good. You know, I only wanted to be up. I only wanted to be energized. In other words, I wanted to be only yang. I did not want any yin, because yin felt too close to depression. Yin felt, you know, it was slowed down. It was more inward. It was more, so that led to a lifetime of yang imbalance. Now, in this stage of my life, I'm pretty happy with yin and seek out a lot more yin and have increased my comfort with it. So one of the things my Chinese medicine doctor used to always say is, she would tell me, when I would tell what time I was waking up, what organ system it was. So, and those were the years that I would wake up a lot between 3 and 5. So it was lung. And lung, I believe, is metal. So yeah, it's metal right there on the chart. So, and I often would have lung problems. And so I'd be characterized, and lung as a personality type is perfectionistic, conscientious, and pretty controlled. So that also made sense. Now I seem to be waking up a lot more in gallbladder. And gallbladder is between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. So I've been working on getting to bed earlier. So I try to get to bed between 9 and 10, which gives me just enough sleep to wake up at 1:30 or at 11:30. So, and the nice thing about learning this is there's actually something I can do for gallbladder at that time. So gallbladder has its own meridian, and there's a way that I can trace it forward and backward to soothe it, to help my ability to go back to sleep. So wonderful stuff. One of the other concepts is that there's a high tide and a low tide. So every meridian is paired with a meridian. So for example, when gallbladder is at its highest tide from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., heart is at its lowest tide, 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. So, you know, that's a time of depletion, can be. And so just more to learn, but I think it's pretty interesting. So here are the meridian diagrams. That's the other thing that I've been working on learning. So we talked about the triple warmer, which is right here. And you see it starts down here at between the 5th and 4th and goes up around the ear. So the meridians are in pairs, except for the 2 meridians that are called central and governing that go through the front of the body. So there's one that goes from the lower lip, from the pubic to the lower lip, and then it goes from the tailbone all the way over the head to the upper lip. So those are the central and governing, but everything else is paired. And one of the ways of soothing or flushing or healing is by reversing the flow and then redirecting the flow. This is also where tapping is done. Tapping is done on the meridian points. So part of the daily energy routine starts with tapping under here, which is a stomach meridian, and then goes on to tapping down here, which is kidney, and then in here, which is thymus, and then right under the ribs by the breast, just one rib below the breast, which is the spleen. So all of those are designed to kind of energize the system get the energy flowing when you first wake up. So some of the practitioners say, you can do it in bed. And I've had some mornings where that's where I've been doing my thumps, is in bed. I can do that one. And here's what the Touch for Health looks like. So this was, I never had any dolls. This is my first doll. She's up on the shelf there. And that's a way, because sometimes I have trouble with the charts or this one-dimensional drawing that we had back here. I have a little trouble following it, but I can actually physically trace it on the mannequin and then see just where they go. So it's important to do that. Applied kinesiology uses muscle testing to test the meridian. So this are just the different tests for each meridian. That's Module 2's content that I'm working to learn. So this one, I think I must have just gone backwards because we... So here's the rest of what I went to Omega for. This is energy psychology. So while I'm in the energy medicine certification program, I will probably take the online energy psychology program because that's kind of my natural area working. The energy medicine is more with the body, and that's a stretch for me, and it's bringing up a lot of my issues. But this is in a sweet spot near to where I've worked all of my life and where I live. So energy psychology, a collection of mind-body approaches for understanding and improving human functioning, focus on a relationship between thoughts, emotions, sensations, and behaviors known as bioenergy systems. So that's that new language I'm beginning to work in, such as meridians and the biofield. These systems and processes exist. They interact within people and between people. They are influenced by cultural and environmental factors. So this is David Feinstein, who is with Donna Eden, 40 years. They have an interesting story. The first 20 years, he as a clinical psychologist, Johns Hopkins trained, had contempt for her work. That's my language, not his. But, you know, she's very intuitive. She's kind of wild. If you see any of her videos, that's what she's like in person. She's 74 and she wears flowing garments and she's just an energy being. You know, floats about a foot above the ground, I'm sure. And David is as dense as they can be. You know, they talk about on the 5 rhythms, they're very different, and that's observable. But she was asked to write her book, Energy Medicine, in the late 90s, and she knew she could not write it without his help. So he agreed to help her, and what he did was took all of his clinical psych training and research training and took her through rigorous interviews. And what came out of it was a huge respect on his part for her work. He didn't realize that she was actually working with an experimental protocol. He didn't see through the rest to see that what she would do is she would do a diagnostic step. She would come up with a treatment plan. She would apply the treatment plan. She'd review the results, rethink the protocol, try a different protocol. It was interesting for him. And having spent 5 days with him, this is very much who he is. He knew that it worked because he could see the results in the clients, but he didn't know how it worked, so he still had to negate it. And I think that's kind of where we are with the science of energy medicine, is the more science we have, the easier it is for our minds to wrap around it so we don't have to negate it. So within this framework, emotional and physical issues are seen, treated as bioenergetic patterns within a mind-body energy system. The mind, body, and thought are to be interwoven and interactive with this mind-body energy system, which involves complex communication involving neurobiological, innate electrophysiology, psychoneuroimmuno, yeah, it's late, consciousness, and cognitive behavioral emotional patterns. And Steph, I'm just thinking that the work you're doing in the book you just wrote falls in this area. I'm thinking. So there's an organization. I just joined it today. If you want to learn more about energy psychology, this is what it is. I have it as a footnote on one of your slides. I can't see it right now. I'll tell you what in a minute. It's the, what is it? The Association of, yes, agreed. Thank you. We do have a chat window if you haven't seen it. Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. There's two. There's one that's the EFT organization, and then there's this one. This one seems to be a little more academic. It feels very much like the American Psychological Association, at which I did not renew my membership this year, so instead I did this. But it's always, I'm joining this because this is where you can get insurance and other member benefits. And also where I'll probably take the online energy psychology certification program. So that's kind of where I'm going with that. So then, and they're talking about two bodies of work within the certifications. They're doing comprehensive energy psychology, which Donna Eden's work is closer to comprehensive energy psychology. And David Feinstein is much more the energy, emotional freedom techniques, EFT, tapping, or energy psychology. So I'm learning them separately, and I will use both of them. And I'm sure as I get more skillful, I'll weave them in. But I really feel that this is the antidote that I want to be offering my clients. And it's the field that I want to practice in because it's the only one that I think is going to heal me. You know, and that's kind of, you know, my clients get the benefit of the work I'm doing for myself. And that has always been true. You know, it's just, you know, that whole thing about physician heal thyself is, and that gives me great passion for it. I mean, I've gone out and started sharing some of the stuff that I can't believe that I'm in an automobile dealership and sharing it, but I cannot meet their pain and not share it. You know, and I went through this dilemma 40 years ago when I first started public speaking, and I had a whole workshop I was supposed to be doing, and I had a whole script that I was supposed to follow, and then a participant would ask a question, and I knew that there was an answer I was supposed to give according to the script, but I also knew I had a better answer based on my own experience, and that I actually didn't agree with the script. And so in the early years, because I was rated on 1 to 10 every day, and you know, based on my ratings, the vendor would keep me employed or not, I used to default to the go with a party line, and then I just hated myself. So now more and more I would just go with what I know to be true. So because I've been working with these clients for 5 years, there's a lot of trust and a lot of transparency. So I'm shocked that I'm actually going in and having them do the triple warmer smoothie, and they're loving it. But when I hand them the essential oils and have them put them in their palms and sniff them, is when it could get back to Ford that I've gone over the edge. But if it does, but on the other hand, I had one of the managers grab the oil out of my hand because he wanted to take it and take it home, because he wanted to use it with his daughter who is having outrageous anxiety. So what does that tell me? That tells me, you know, get over myself, which is my own growing edge right now. Get over myself, get over my self-consciousness, get over my own fears about how I'm perceived, you know, not taken legitimately, or all those things that have been hounding me all my life. So that's where I'm going. And of course, my companions on the path, I'm bringing you with me. So now I just have to tell you about this mind-blowing thing that has just happened. So in the midst of all these trainings and certifications, the woman who, so for year one of Donna Eden, you have a local facilitator, a local trainer, which is fabulous. I mean, she's a half hour away. The training's all local. I don't have to stay in a hotel. I love it. And she was involved in this thing called Aroma Freedom Technique. And she was doing a little workshop, and I decided to sign up for it, and it was a week ago Sunday. And it's the protocol is somewhat similar to EFT, which is why they're using the AFT to kind of link it together. It does not use tapping. Instead, it uses essential oils. And it's used to, I'm just going to tell you what my experience of it is you do the same setup. You do the same setup of someplace you're stuck. Someplace you're stuck, someplace that's affecting you, someplace that, a goal you have. And this is where it can be a lot like coaching too. So you start with a goal. And then as you work with a goal, and sometimes if you're having trouble, and we actually did this at the Live Wisdom School, if you're having trouble coming up with a goal, we could give you a little something to help you get clear on it, like envision. This is envision. So you put a little envision in the palms of your hands, you rub it together, you hold it over your nose and mouth, and you inhale. And the amazing thing is, stuff happens. And then the next part of the exercise, I think if I go ahead with slides, I'll be in better. So why does that happen? That happens because the olfactory nerve is hardwired into the midbrain. It is our first sense. It comes online before anything else. And it's there as a primary defense. You know, we need to know if food is not good. So when we're in the wild, we need to be able to smell that. And it's also how we tell predators. And if you can't smell the scent of your adversary, you're dead. So that didn't need to be something that was processed with the prefrontal cortex. It needed to happen at the center of the brain. So when we take an essential oil and inhale it, and I'm sure this is what happens with cocaine too. You know, I never had Coke, but I'm sure that's what happens with Coke. It goes right to the centers of the brain where it controls things like memory, fight or flight. It controls the limbic system is all our drives, you know, for food, for sex, for all those things. So the response to smell is powerful and automatic. And I don't know about you, but I've had times where my response to someone, because this is where our pheromones come in, you know, our own hormonal discharge. There have been men that I have had inappropriate responses to. That it was inappropriate for who they were, like the guy who came to do my yard cleanup one fall, some guy in a plaid shirt, and he had Eau de Man on him or something, I don't know. And I was 52, I was premenopausal, you know, right in the throes of it. And I'm just like, this is so bizarre. What is going on? But it's the oldest scent. So I have to tell you a story Allison did. Allison told a story about her sister who wore Shalimar long after Shalimar was a popular perfume. And this was strategic. She said, I want to wear the perfume that is locked in their first sexual experiences, so that men have an overwhelming attraction to me. Now, I think personally that was pretty brilliant. Talk about marketing strategies and campaigns. Or when you're selling your house, what do they tell you to do? Bake chocolate chip cookies. So everybody walks in, smells chocolate chip cookies, just screams home. Or use that pumpkin pie, you know, aroma thing, because that just screams home. So, and we have the aversion as well, as there's places that I go into, I don't know about you, but I'm just like, ooh, I got to get out of here. So it is one of the first ones, and it's where everything's wired. So it's a very short path to travel, and it doesn't have any stuff overriding it. It just goes right to there. So then, this is the process. So we did it on Sunday. I'm going to figure out how to do it online because, you know, it's just a matter of methodology. You need the oils to do it, and then we can lead it. I'm taking a class starting on the 9th of October that's a certification in this, and it's all done online. So we're going to be learning how to do it. It's Zoom, and we'll figure out how to do it. But just like EFT, you set your intention or your goal, and then you rate it in terms of the likelihood. You know, where are you with this on a 0 to 10? So I've been working with this stuff around energy medicine and my comfort as a practitioner, and, you know, feeling comfortable and competent as a practitioner. And when I asked myself, what is the likelihood? I'm about 3 on a 0 to 10. And then you ask the question of the negative voice, the saboteur as we know it in coaching. You know, what does it start saying? And that's when I discovered I got into a whole chapter in my life I have not visited, which is around the going from grade school to junior high school, is when I lost a sense of body competence. So that whole negative voice came up, and then you do some of the same things we do in EFT, which is how do you feel? You know, what's the emotion you have? Find the one word for the emotion. Where is that feeling in the body? So that was very clear in both steps. Then drift back to an earlier time when you're trying to find the snapshots that match this. You know, when was the first time you felt this way, heard this negative voice? And then was it a single snapshot or was it a movie? You know, so then you get to pull that together. And then we add an oil. And I have to tell you, what happens here is magic. It's just magic. I thought EFT was fabulous, and I thought EFT was brilliant and led to a lot of breakthroughs. It does, but it takes a lot of labor. This just does something amazing. So you focus on thought, feeling, memory. You smell the oil, and then you start watching how the image shifts, watching how the new beliefs start to emerge. And it's pretty amazing. And then you go back and say, okay, here was my original intention. What was, how would I rate it now? Yes, it is awesome. It's just, it's like magic. I got to say, it's just like magic. And what'd they do? What'd they do? Where's the share? There it is. Right. I don't know why that happened. And rate it again. So if you still come up with a low rating, we do another round. So, you know, the next time I came up as a 5, and then I got to a 7. We stopped at 7 because we were, you know, together as a group, and I went home and I continued it. And I've continued over the next couple days, and I have a whole area that's unpacking that probably has been getting in my way, not probably, has been getting in my way all my life. That was, and I've done a shitload of inner work, and it still was a blind spot. And then you create an affirmation that expresses the new positive belief, and then you use another oil to lock that in. And so it was pretty beautiful here. Everybody was out. It was a lovely night. We had a crescent moon reflected in the water. We went down to the labyrinth. We had the essential oil on our palms, and we were standing in a power pose. So this is Amy Cuddy's work around the power pose. So we're all in, you know, a big power pose with our affirmation, holding it. And there's a lot of stuff shifting in me as a result. So my trainer is moving heaven and earth so I can get certified in this more quickly. And she's also going to explain to me how to do the oil thing in a way that makes it possible for people, because I can't not share this. It's so powerful. And I'm getting so much from it that it's something I really want to pass along. So And then I took this course, and I'm going to be bringing things to you from it. These are the people who are in this online course I'm taking. I listened to it Saturday and Sunday. I was so blown away. I just, some of the names I've known for a long time. This is David that I did take the class with. This guy, Jim Oshman, I showed you part of his book. I'm going to make my way through it. It's just a course in all of the science behind this, so I can have conversations with people that help them get a little more comfortable. Daniel Siegel is known for MindSight. A lot of people know about his work. And Beverly Rubik, she does a lot of stuff in the biofield, and that was also, I'll be heavily borrowing her work. So that's what I'm doing. Let's everybody unmute and have some conversation.
So, Pamela, what brand essential oils were you using?
Young Living. I strongly recommend Young Living. I do have a website. I am a distributor. I was a distributor in 2003. And what's interesting about everything having to come full cycle, I got overwhelmed. I didn't understand them. I got the 3 books. I didn't know how to make sense out of them. Now it's like, where was that? You know? I'm looking forward to making the bath salts. I'm looking forward to making all these other things. So yeah, they're Young Living. I
used to be a distributor in Hawaii.
So when you were in Hawaii, it was about when I was a distributor, and because of the aroma freedom therapy, I now have a real reason to use them.
Yeah.
At least one that's compelling to me. I mean, I like them personally for some of the medical things, and my dad was having a rough time the other day, so I brought him over, and I did a little of the Eden energy work with these oils, and I used peppermint and lavender, and you know, he's at one of those places that we can't fix what's wrong with him, and he's so frustrated with the medical system, and he's so frustrated with his chronic itching and his chronic, you know, indigestion, and he's just pretty miserable. That if I can at least do something that is palliative, gives the sense of caring. So I did a Brazilian foot technique with a little of peppermint oil, doing a Vitaflex, which is the Young Living thing, Vitaflex treatment. So a little reflexology. And then I put a little peppermint oil on his belly, because that's what they say to use for digestive. I probably caused him diarrhea, but I'm not going to admit it to him. Then he has itching on his back really bad, and that's where he had shingles, and where he has psoriasis. We don't know what it is now. It's just, it could be all of the medications. It could be a hallucination. It could be, I don't know. But I use Thieves, which is this wonderful product that I've loved from the beginning. Thieves. The story behind it is it's what was used during the Middle Ages to help the grave diggers not get sick from the plague. So, and it's a lot of very strong aromatics, but you can use it as a hand wash. You can use it as now they've come up with a whole oral line. So you can I put it in my breakfast. So that's really good. And it's kind of cinnamon and clove. And so it's something that would go well with what I'm eating for breakfast. So this is good. But, you know, also you can become a distributor. You can become a member and do this yourself if you have people that you're going to want to do it with. You get the Wicked diffuser that I got. And, you know, in usual Pamela style, my home is quite aromatic. But so one of the things that I did is I brought one of these little ones, and it's called Stress Away. I had it in my purse, and I was a little crazy because I was late getting on the road, and it was rainy, and the traffic was much worse than I thought. I was going to be late to a client. And so I was getting into aggressive driving, which I don't normally do. And, you know, my shoulders were at my earlobes, and I was driving. And I thought, oh, I have that in my bag. Took it out, put it in my palm. At the next time I was in bumper to bumper stop. Then I'm doing my triple warmers, and now that was something I would have ridiculed at another time in my life. You know, certainly when I was young and really had to be cool. I'm so grateful to have something I can do. When I know that I'm ratcheting my anxiety up and I can't stop myself, to have something to do, the olfactory stuff goes right to my brain, so that starts calming me. And then to have a technique that works on my meridians. That's just kind of, I'm going to keep pursuing this. And it all is about my overarching vision of trying to bring more light in, you know, to keep finding ways to keep the vessel strong and receptive, not brittle, and then bring more light in. And so this is back to the trail of breadcrumbs. I am living in joy because of the answered prayer. I'm living in the experience of grace, because this is a really big shift from where I've been stuck for 15 years, you know, and I'm feeling the shift. So enough from me. What are your thoughts? This is when you talk.
Okay, John and I signed up for Brightline.
Good.
Eating.
Good.
We haven't actually begun, if you will, but we're getting ready.
Yep.
Can you hear him in the background? Be quiet.
Oh, sleep.
There's a lot of anxiety for it, for me, day by day, I guess, and I haven't even started yet. But getting ready for it is anxiety producing. I guess that's, you know. So when I listen to you talk about chakras and the wheel, where the wheel was and where I am. I'm very distrustful. I guess that's what I come out with, is I'm very distrustful, untrusting, whatever the word is.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me think there's more to come. I guess that is, when I'm listening to it, I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting more concrete reasons, and I'm finding out I have to have concrete reasons or science, if you call it that, to understand what's happening to me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I thought you'd like Brightline Eating, because it has so much science.
Yeah.
And, you know, just like this is really the logic behind the neuroscience.
We listened tonight to how your brain hijacks you.
Badly behaving brain. Yes.
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 And the leptin and how all that, it's concrete.
Yep.
I can understand that.
Yep. Well, I think she started me on that road, and that now I'm following it into the energy psychology, just because, you know.
And I understand how they tie together. That was why, you know, my tuning in tonight, I guess. I just got off of the badly behaving brain, and I said, I'm going to go listen to Pamela.
Thank you. Thank you for showing up. I would have felt really bad if nobody showed up, but I would have done it anyway.
Well, there's a reason, like we all know, and things fall into place. And when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So thank you.
As I say, you know, I've been waiting for the shift for 15 years.
Yeah.
And what I've also been talking about recently, and it's worth saying here right now, is I'm so grateful for the teachers I've had, one of whom was Marion Woodman. And she talks about the caterpillar transforming to the butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
But the caterpillar has to spend a long time in the chrysalis when its body is actually turning to jelly. She said, in that time, it's really important to not give in to the darkness. And I know pretty much everybody on this call has lived through this, to not give in to the darkness, because it can get very, very dark.
Yeah.
And we could lose, you know, and you just have to keep staying and staying and staying and staying. So the last 15 years have been a very dark chrysalis for me, a very hard chrysalis for me. And where I am right now is and nobody can open the chrysalis before time, because you won't be a butterfly. You know, one of the saddest stories I know is somebody was trying to help that. He wrote about it, some famous writer. And I just was bereft at what happened is the butterfly struggled out and then never got strong and died. You know, because, you know, we need whatever it is through this process to transform. But how I feel right now is I'm just on the outside of the chrysalis. My little, you know, wings are out and my little antennae are out, my little feeble legs are out, and I'm really wanting to unfold those wings. And, you know, and they're coming out tentatively, and I'm hoping that nobody's going to come along, you know, that distrust that you talk about, you know, I would just call it a fear-based life, you know, life has taught me to be tentative and fearful, particularly with things that are precious, when they're really precious, you know, so yeah. So I'm just out on the edge of this chrysalis having just emerged, and thank you for being such a good receiver.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your truth.
John thanks you too. He's all in it with me. Bless his heart.
I got that. Who else?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Well, there was a lot that you just said. So I don't mean it.
As always, yeah.
But I'm going to use the triple warmer. I'm going to read about that. That's absolutely exactly. Yeah, my triple warmer is turned on high.
Yeah, I'll send you the extra exercises too.
And then the memory release. So that'll be great. That'll be perfect. And I'll use my clients.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This AFT would be so perfect for your clients, because it's a joyous way to do it. You know, there's something, you know, this one really bypasses what I have language for. And as I continue to work in my own process, I'm just really surprised. I can't believe that all these years I never went to that particular stage of my life, and that it's turning out to be, and it just kind of showed up. And it didn't show up in a brutal way either. It showed up in a really sweet way. There's a lot of kindness.
Well, I had a brutal day today. Yeah, I was let go from my job.
Oh, the awful job that you fought the battle forever to stay?
Yeah. It was, my boss lied and told them that we'd had all these conversations, and she kept canceling everything with me. There was another team wanted to take me on, and it was just terrible. It was just really awful. So that's great.
Well, remember, answered prayer comes in many forms.
Absolutely. And so.
And look at what you've launched. Tell the others what you've launched.
I've launched an intuitive counseling business, and it comes off the back of a book that I wrote called The Art of Forgiveness, which became an international bestseller in its first weekend.
Yes.
So it's really great, and I can take people from anger and resentment to forgiveness without letting anyone off the hook. So, you know, I can take people from closure. You know, I can get closure without anyone having to give in, you know. So, yes, I can.
And this is specifically around abuse.
It is specifically, but it can be used for anything. I mean, people, they have a cheating boyfriend or something like that. But yeah, the book is specifically about childhood abuse. And so, you know, that's the deepest, darkest thing I can think of.
Yeah.
If I can get people through that and pretty quickly in about 8 weeks, then I can do it for, you know, someone who stole your laptop, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's that. that's that. And yeah, I can't stomach going back to the office job or applying for another one. I just can't.
Yeah. Good.
That's done.
Good. Yep.
That's done.
Came to the end of that road.
Really.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is the first day outside the chrysalis, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So be gentle with those wings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't put them in direct sunlight. Let them be, just soft glow and just a gentle breeze, no strong wind.
Okay. All right.
This is from one little butterfly to another little butterfly. Is don't put those wings out there yet.
But yeah, if anyone wants a copy of the book, you can go to reverendwild.com and you can get a free copy.
Super.
And see read my.
And this is a vision. So we've been talking a lot about visioning, and a couple of years ago, this wasn't anywhere in your imagining. And we've been talking. Stephanie's a writer and a very good writer, it's a freelance writer, and that's the gig she just is talking about, amongst many other things that she is. But this is a passion that she has, and we talked about what she was going to write and in what form it would take. And then nobody saw this manifestation, but here it is.
Well, that's why it's all a bit shocking. Yeah. So.
Well, that's the impulses. So that's the thing we started with, which is about following your impulses. So the voice of the small, still voice that all spiritual traditions talk about. Sometimes it's neither small nor still, but nevertheless, it can lead us in what is actually the highest expression of our heart's desire if we don't block it.
Right. Okay. Yep.
And that's where this AFT helps unblock.
Right.
Because I've been doing it for a week and I've done a number of sessions with myself, my vision is opening up, which is what's making it so much easier for me to just give away my whole studio. Because it just shifted. And without making it bad and wrong, that I wasted all that, or I shouldn't have done that, or any of that. No, that was then and this is now.
Right, exactly. So that's right. That was then. I was raising my kids. I needed health insurance. They're still they're they're past the point infancy where you have to keep them alive.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to write. I always wanted to write this book. And lo and behold, it's the doorway to a business which I think I know I'm going to just enjoy so much more. It's going to be a full life as opposed to only half my life being mine, not even half.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But,
And we met at Omega at a tarot card class and then found out we had a million things in common. So that was 5-6 years ago, something like that.
Studying medium. Well, I was just studying it. I'm now a fully qualified psychic medium.
Yep. Spiritualist minister, spiritualist church.
Right. So that's how I can counsel people on the emotional, spiritual side, and also get information from their spirit guides and their loved ones. And so that really helps if they want to hear from anyone who's done them wrong. But they don't have to.
Okay, not required. All right, Mary Ellen, let's do a check-in with you.
Well, let's see. You took me back to Hawaii, and I'm wondering why I'm not doing any of that here with the EFT and the aromatherapy.
Yep.
I do start in 2 weeks, I think it is. I'm going to go take Michael Harner's basic workshop for the shaman.
Yep.
You have to do that before you do the longer one. I don't know if I'm going to do the longer one, but because I'm curious.
Yeah, it's wonderful work. I was introduced to his work somewhere in the 80s, and I have a friend who went through all his training, and if you want to connect with her, I'd be happy to do that. She's
cool.
She's an artist.
There you go.
Yeah, she's got a powerful presence, and she does a lot online.
So
I'd
love to. Yeah.
Sure, I will do that.
Perfect.
So do you think this is a worthy area for us to continue to explore as a wisdom school?
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm so excited about everything that's coming together in the world, and it's just, it takes coaching and the things that we do to a whole new level, and one that's much more likely to be transformative.
Right.
I mean, I had no desire to be a coach doing a lot of one-on-one because it felt way too much like therapy.
Yeah.
And that stuck conversation. Whereas being able to do something that helps people there's a lot of those conversations that are repetitive thought patterns that I can't get out of. I can't get out of my own story, and people can't get out of theirs. And that's what I love about this using essential oils, as it just goes to a part of the brain that, and I'm sure as we go further, we'll find out there's more than that involved.
Yep.
That's the cover story for now.
Yeah.
It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
That's, I guess that's for me, you and I are doing the same type of workout at dealerships, and I know that that's about to change. So when that's about to change, and I know that there's a next step, but I don't know exactly what it is. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm sort of in this place of, okay, show me.
Yeah.
But I am looking. I am definitely looking, and yeah. And I go back to getting healthy and all that to be a primary thing right now.
Yep. That's where I started a year ago.
Yeah.
Really getting serious about that and shifting my own energy.
Yeah.
My own energy was badly stuck, and at some level I had to make something move because everything was stuck, and that was not gonna go well. Well, thank you, ladies. Stay tuned. I'm in lots of certifications. I'm taking my online class in the science of energy medicine. I send you prayers because, learning all this stuff, I know I'm smart and I know I'm competent, but when I have to do demos, when I have to actually work on someone in front of the instructor, man, it just goes to show me that my competence was rooted in my cognition. I'm surprised. And when I tell people the story that resonates most with me is I did not live in my body until about 40. So and then it wasn't full time in cohabitation. I wasn't showing up full time, and one of my spiritual teachers gave me grief all the time because he could see that I was outside my body, and that's when I would trip and stumble, and things would happen because I just wasn't in my body. So I've been working on getting in my body for 30 years, but I'm still not as in my body as someone who has lived most of their life as a physical being. So what was happening with this studying is I'm understanding it all up here in my cognition. But anytime, and this was what studio life was like for me, is I had to learn how to take whatever the instruction was and turn it into something, making something. And part of how I do that is a much slower process. So it means, and when I used AFT to discover some of these blocks, that's how, because I was beginning to self-destruct in it. I was beginning to get a lot of that defeatist talk going, is I'll never learn this, I'll never be any good at it. I never took massage practice. I never was a body worker, all that stuff. And by doing AFT, I got to the core issue. The belief shifted. I felt it shift. And then I was able to come up with an affirmation. And it actually was a very powerful thing for me, is I need to remember, and this is my life stance, that I'm just responsible for suiting up and showing up. That God actually provides the healing. Because where I was getting all twisted, and I did some energy testing with some friends, and it just went badly because they were trying so hard to help me. And I was getting so twisted working with them that whole thing about that shared field
Yeah.
got screwed up, and the more screwed up it got, the more I would begin to get anxious. So, that's where I needed to land in a place where I remember, just like with everything else in my life, I prep, I suit up and I show up, I prepare my consciousness, my willingness, but then it's really, divine intelligence, divine love, the loving presence, whatever we want to call it, that does the healing.
Mhm.
And back to that vessel, I'm that lower triangle. So my job is to make that lower triangle as purified, as refined as I can, and as strong, and then just trust it to be filled with the light. So
Mhm.
that helps me back away from the performance anxiety. It's just really performance anxiety.
Mhm.
And I had it with golf, I had it with studio, I had it with dancing. It's the same place that I come back to. That I'm not a native in my body.
Yeah.
So I share all this, not to be always talking about me, but because I come up in a tradition that tells me to share my experience, strength, and hope, that it may benefit someone. And I hope the thing about the chrysalis is as powerful for you as it is for me.
Mhm.
Because, it's real easy to give into the dark
Mhm.
and to give it names and labels like depression and all those other things, when in fact it's just time in the chrysalis.
I just call you.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate it because it all
Only because we share the same job.
in the past 30 years.
Yes. Yes. All right.
Thank you
You.
for sharing.
Thank
the
you.
journey.
Love
Bye.
you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Susan always says love you too, so I'm going to practice saying it more.
Love you.